Are you a chiropractor with a struggling practice, having a hard time finding and keeping patients? Is your staff falling short of expectations? I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer, and DC Trainings has the answers that you need. So tune in now and find out how. Hello, welcome to DC Trainings. I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer. I'm excited to be with you today. We've got a great call. And the topic today is spinal screening marketing. And the reason why I'm excited about this topic today is because this is something that has, the whole topic of spinal screening marketing has changed pretty dramatically in the last 2 to 3 years. And it's just not happening in the same way that we used to do it. And as an example, currently, I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce in Santa Cruz, where I practice. And the Chamber of Commerce every year has a big event. It's the Chamber of Commerce Business Expo. We all get together at the local mall, and there's booths and there's people, and we always had a booth there. And that went on for, 20 years or more. Then things shut down for COVID. And of course, that changed the whole dynamic and environment of what we do as far as these public type of events. So now the Chamber of Commerce doesn't do that event anymore. And so we don't actually have that as one part of our marketing. But that doesn't mean that spinal screening marketing is dead in the water. Spinal screening marketing is still thriving and flourishing. And in my practice, it's bringing in many new patients all the time. And so this is why I want to emphasize that you keep this as part of your ongoing marketing. Now, it could be that those types of events, like I mentioned, the Chamber of Commerce event, comes back again, and we have more of those public type of events, maybe art and wine festivals where you get a booth, or maybe there's a business expo or some type of event like that where you want to go out and interact with the public and have your booth, and I can show you how to do all that. But there's another type of spinal screening marketing that's happening, and that's the one-on-one spinal screening. And when you think about it, even in those big events, ultimately, when it came to the actual component of spinal screening a patient or a person, it was one-on-one. So I really want to stress the importance of you honing your skills and having good, confident abilities around doing a spinal screening, because it won't necessarily happen in the same format that it used to. That's okay. It's going to be happening more one-on-one, which brings me to my example from yesterday. So I'm in practice full-time, just like you. So I know the dynamics of how things change. I think that's a component that I bring to DC Trainings that's unique, because there are many coaching programs out there run by chiropractors who no longer have a full-time practice, or they're not literally in the trenches seeing patients. They maybe own a practice and they hire associates to work in the practice, but they don't work there anymore. And so there's this sort of disconnect, but I'm literally seeing patients every day. And so I see the dynamic of how these environments change. So yesterday, a patient came in with his wife, and his wife's not a patient, but he's been coming in, and she came in with him. And my CAs know that when a person comes in who's not a patient, maybe they're a friend or a family member of one of our existing patients, that they are to go into one of our private patient rooms, and the person who came with them is going to also go into the room as an observer for the routine visit that the patient's going to experience, right? So when I walked into this room, here was a husband who I've been taking care of, and then his wife's there. And so she was watching. I took care of him, got him adjusted, and then I sat him up. And then I was noticing that her shoulders were pulled forward quite a bit. And I just happened to notice this with her posture. I know as chiropractors, we notice this stuff all the time. My joke around that part is actually through my wife, because when I see patients, I'm checking their spine and they're lying face down. And so I get used to recognizing people literally from the back of their head. So we'll go out to a restaurant for dinner, or we'll be around town doing something, and I'll see somebody literally from the back of their head. I'll be able to recognize, oh, I know that person. And it's not so much looking at the back of their head, it's more around their posture, right? We can observe people, because we're trained in it, that have subtle variations in their posture, and we instantly know under the surface why that's a problem, or how that indicates that there is a problem. So when I was taking care of this patient yesterday and his wife was here, I noticed that her shoulders were really pulled forward. And so I asked her about that. I said, have you had trouble with your shoulders? And have you had tension in your neck, or do you get headaches or anything? Well, it turned out right away, she said, oh, I get headaches. They're terrible. And I could tell because her shoulders were so pulled forward that it must put a lot of tension on her neck and the back of her head. And so unfortunately, she's been suffering with headaches for a long time. Well, that conversation needs to lead to me actually being able to feel and palpate her spine and see if there's any indications of a subluxation or some spinal problem that I could potentially help her with, right? So that's where I want you to get your comfort up. I want your comfort level to be at a point where you're comfortable asking people about possible health problems related to something that you observed in their posture or the way that they walk or the way that they're sitting or standing, and then have that lead into, would you mind if I put my hands on your neck or back or spine and check to see if there's something I might help you with? That transition can take some confidence, and it can certainly benefit you to have experience and practice around this, because people, in their mind, you're potentially a stranger, and having some stranger put their hands on your neck is not a comfortable thing. So you have to get comfortable in bridging that gap or crossing that point so that they are welcoming enough or they're comfortable enough for you to be able to palpate their spine and feel their possible misalignments. So in the example from yesterday, we did that, right? I saw her posture was not right. I brought up the subject of it. I asked her if she'd had any tension or if she was under stress, where it tended to show up. And as it turns out, it showed up with headaches. So then I said, would you mind if I checked your spine? And she said, sure, that'd be great. And so in checking her spine, now we get into, how do you palpate in a way that will elicit concern on the part of the person? In other words, how can I palpate in a way so that, knowing what I know, they feel something that I could potentially help them with in a way that motivates them to say, oh yeah, based on what you felt, something's going on there, and I'd like to make sure I take care of this, right? Now, in the words of the great Clarence Gonstead, Dr. Gonstead, he had a saying for this. He said, firm till they squirm. Now, not that you'd ever want to hurt anybody, but in terms of palpation, think back to when you were a kid and you fell and you bruised your knee or bloodied your knee, and your mom said, oh, does it hurt right here? Or maybe bruised your knee is a better one, because if it's bleeding, they're not going to get blood on their hands. But you bruised your knee and they say, well, does it hurt here? Right? You almost want your mom to touch your knee to say like, yeah, that's where it is, Mom. Yeah, it's right there. And she's going to touch it so she knows, oh yeah, it is right there. And she might even push around a little bit and say, well, let's see, show me where it hurts. Is it hurting here? And she'll push and you go, oh yeah, that's it. Does it hurt here? No, not so much there. Oh, so it is right here. And she'll push again. Yeah, that's where it is, Mom, for sure. That's a way to really build, information for the person who's doing the palpating, but also it's a way to confirm or affirm, yes, they know what they're doing. And yes, I'm communicating with them with hopes that they're going to be able to help me. That's the approach you take with your palpation, right? They're not to go so far as to hurt the person, but you want them to feel that you know what it is that you're feeling in a way that they can elicit, or they can at least respond and confirm that. So in our palpation approach, when I'm palpating this person yesterday, I could tell right where it was sore, right where she was subluxated. It was actually kind of pretty sore, which means if it's that sore when I push, there's probably some inflammation in there. There's some swelling. Just like if I push on my hand, it's not sore, but if there's a bruise there, I might not have even seen it or known that it was going to be sore. But when I push on it, I go, oh yeah, that's the bruise. That's where it's sore. Didn't feel it till I pushed on it, but now I do. And that's because the bruise has some inflammation. In the case of a subluxation, that swelling and inflammation can become so chronic that it doesn't take very much pressure for you to feel it and say, oh, that's not normal. Yeah, it's swollen in there. And it also doesn't take very much pressure for the person who's on the receiving side of that to say, oh, you found it, doc. Yep, that's the spot. So we want to build that communication and that rapport with the person who we are trying to help. We're ultimately trying to take it to the next step, though, which is we've introduced ourselves. We've said, have you had any health problems based on something I observed about your posture or something that you told me about? Here I'm palpating, and yes, I can feel there's a problem there. To the next step, which is let's set up an appointment where I can spend more time and really evaluate this more carefully, right? The key component about spinal screenings is it's all sort of an impromptu event, right? It's happening on the fly. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't planned. They're certainly not usually in your office. It happens all over the place, although in this case it was, but this wasn't a patient, right? So it's an impromptu meeting that you want to guide or lead the dance, as they say, but guide the flow of this conversation. So that's how we're moving through this, right? And I know I'm kind of going on a little longer without getting over to the PowerPoint, but because this is really the essence, and I don't even know if we need the PowerPoint today, because this is really the essence of spinal screenings. You can meet somebody anywhere, anytime, in any place, and you can talk to them about health concerns that they may have in a way that leads to you feeling their spine and getting some indication as to whether or not there's a misalignment or a subluxation that would then warrant a more scheduled, appropriate appointment to spend more time and evaluate what's going on. And that's the goal of how we want to go along with this. Now, I use the example of a patient that brought his wife into my office, but imagine, what if it was at a grocery store? What if it was at your children's school? What if it was at the gym? What if it was anywhere that you go where you're meeting people and they tell you about some health problem? See, the funny thing is with as chiropractors, and we all run into this, is we'll be out in the public and we don't even have to bring up a health problem. We just say, hi, nice to meet you, Joe. What do you do? Well, I'm a carpenter. Oh, great. What do you do? I'm a chiropractor. Oh, really? You're a chiropractor? You know what? I've been having this problem right here. Like, people are just so quick to offer the information that is our lead in to, wow, I'm so sorry to hear that. How long has that been going on? Oh, it's been years. Oh, that's terrible. Let me take a look. Let me see if there's something that I can help you with. Now, that is the essence of spinal screenings. I'm going to shift gears a little bit, because one thing that I'm not a big fan of, I mean, I'm a big fan of helping anybody, anywhere, anytime, but what I'm not a big fan of is, pulling up your table at some sporting event where you don't know anybody and just giving out a bunch of free adjustments to people without any basis or education. So when it comes to, having that environment where you're just giving away free adjustments and, okay, great, that was a quick pop and you're all set, bye, have a great day. I think that's almost doing a disservice, because it's such a quick fix and there's really no basis. And what it does is it really promotes a symptom chasing type of approach with chiropractic. And I feel like chiropractic has so much more to offer in terms of keeping a wellness model, like keeping your spine subluxation free, keeping you healthy and structurally sound, making sure your nervous system is functioning at optimal capacity so that the messages from your brain can flow into your body uninterrupted. And those messages are what dictate health in the body. So that communication, by being open and unhindered, means that the person has this opportunity to be healthier from the inside, or above down, inside out. And that's the magic of chiropractic, in my opinion, in the big picture, this sort of optimal enhance your life experience approach. When we get into events where we're going there just to give out free adjustments quickly, people generally see that as a layperson and say, oh yeah, I do have back pain. I want to go get popped. I got an adjustment. Okay, I feel better. Great. Chiropractic worked. That was it. And they lose that big picture, which is, in my mind, so much more than the quick fix with a symptom-based chiropractic adjustment. So that's where I think, from the spinal screening standpoint, I like to use that stage as a way to bring people into the office so they can experience what we really have to offer, both through the chiropractic adjustment, but also through the education process that we build as with DC trainings. I teach you that we're going to be talking about that in March next year with module 2 and the new patient module. How do we provide an education so that somebody can really start to see the big picture of what's possible by having optimum health occurring from above down, inside out, through a subluxation-free nervous system? And I just don't want the general public to lose out on that opportunity. So I feel like from the standpoint of spinal screenings, we want to make sure that we offer that as much as possible. Okay, so that was our intro today, right? That's the introduction to spinal screening. And I didn't even get into the PowerPoint. So what I'm going to do is there's a little bit different flow today, but I think it'll work out just fine. Okay, so let's log in and let's just go right into some of the materials that you have with DC trainings that are going to help you to develop more of these spinal screening environments. So in our materials for this week, which before I get too far off track, let me just remind you, because our next seminar is coming up on January 21st, and this is team development. This is a big one, because we're going to show you how to develop a team of chiropractic advocates, whether it be associate doctors or CAs. You want to make sure that you have people on your team that can serve the number of patients that you want to serve. Now, whether that means you serving them personally, doctors, if you're going to be adjusting them, or whether you're going to be, adjusting some of them and you're going to have an associate doctor adjusting some of them. Either way, you want to get your pieces in place so that your practice thrives at the level that you want it to thrive at. So that's what we'll be talking about in module 1, how to really find the right people to join your team, how to develop those people and give them key roles in your practice, and then to have ongoing team members, have ongoing, I was going to say management of those people, but it's not so much management, it's more about teamwork, right? To have a successful team in the future. So we're going to cover all 3 of those essential components in module 1. That'll be on January 21st. It is going to be at my office. We will have a live feed component, happening with that as well, but that'll be coming up in January. And I look forward to seeing you all there. Okay, so let's get into here, because this spinal screening marketing, the outline and script, which is one of the materials that you have here, is going to give you a range of how you can structure these events. So we're going to just go through this so I can show you. Now, in this case, we're going to frame this as the Art and Wine Festival type of environment, or the Chamber of Commerce type of environment, right? We have our scheduling. We want to schedule various types of events. You can pick which ones you want to do. And one way to look at this, if you want to find some events, you're going to want to get plugged into the Chamber of Commerce. Another one is the Rotary. If you want to look into the Rotary or the Chamber of Commerce, they will have different events that are happening that are public events, because that's how they operate, right? They pull the community together through these public events. So contact various types of events by securing a booth, or even just handing out. You can go to an event without having a booth, and you can create something where you're doing spinal screenings by passing out raffle tickets and having them come to you or call the office. So lots of different ways that you can promote yourself in these events. As it says here, Chamber of Commerce or Rotary are great sources to find out which events are happening, and then contact the event coordinator for details to reserve your space or have a presence there, right? I had an event where I didn't even have a table because their tables were all sold out, but I found out that they were going to be having a raffle on a stage at the end of the event. And so based on that raffle, I said, well, how about if I contribute a big prize? And I actually had a gift certificate to a really fancy restaurant and a iPad that we raffled off from that stage. And in order to be entered into winning the raffle, you had to buy tickets. So they were selling tickets for us. And at the end, they had me come up on the stage and make an announcement. And I, thanked everyone for coming. And then I invited them to participate in the raffle, which meant they had to fill out a health survey. And those surveys came to me with the patient's name and phone number and address. And so all of the local people that filled out the raffle, we invited them to come into the office, and we ended up having a bunch of new patients come in. So That's just an example of how you may not even have a table or a booth per se. You might just have a presence, and that'll work real well for you. So here's all the supplies. I'm not going to go through all of those right now, but you have a list of supplies that you can use to set up your booth and to have a presence at the event. And then staffing. Now, this one is important. We want 3 people to be in the staffing component of a spinal screening. One is the feeder. This is the person who, in the case that I used, went out and gave out passed out raffle tickets. Sorry, not raffle tickets, but passed out postcards to come find us. And in exchange for filling out a health survey, they would get a raffle ticket. So everybody that filled out a health survey got a raffle ticket. So that you want a feeder, and this is the person who roams the event and sends people to you to deposit raffle tickets for a grand prize. You also want a screener, right? That's the person that was me yesterday with this patient's wife doing the screening. So have a screener, somebody who's going to do those brief exams using scripts from this outline. Then we want a scheduler. And that's the person who's collecting payments, if you're going to collect payments, and provides a spinal screening certificate, and then offers the appointment to family and friends. And this is one that a lot of people miss out on, because here through whatever offer that you're giving, you have somebody who's like, I want to do that. I want to come in for that offer. And then from there, we could say, was there anyone else that would like to take advantage of this offer? They could win this grand prize. They could get a raffle ticket and win the prize. Oh, wow. Yeah. My 2 friends are here at this event. I'm going to go find them. They should get in on this, right? Or my family at home, could they do it? They're not here, but I'd like them to have a possibility of winning this prize. And it'd be great for them to get some help with chiropractic care. Sure. They're not here. Let's fill it out. You can buy a ticket for them and get in on it. And of course, the chances of you winning the prizes goes up because you're going to have more tickets. So don't forget to offer that to family and friends when you're scheduling those appointments. Okay. Now I'll say something too, because in the past, when we had these events, we had a motto, and it was actually more of a rule, but it was a rule that we stuck to. And that is that when we were selling these raffle tickets, or we were selling certificates to come in at a discounted rate to the office, for example, say $20, and it's one of the materials that I'll show you, but if there was no pay, there was no appointment. And that was a really rigid rule. And I'll explain how that can be a problem if you don't follow the rule. If you give somebody a certificate and say, okay, because of this event here today, I'm going to give you this certificate, and let's make an appointment for you to come into the office for an evaluation. If there's no money on the line, many of them won't show up. They'll make the appointment, they'll have great intentions, and then they won't show up. And it's really disheartening when you have a schedule that's full of new patients, and yet half of them don't come in. You get your energy up high, you're excited about these people coming in, the appointment looks great, appointment book looks great, and then when they don't come in, it's kind of a letdown. So we want to avoid that. So that's why we had that hard, fast rule. And the rule was, today's offer is $20 to come into the office for a full evaluation. It's a major discount. You should take advantage of it today. But if you're not really committed to coming in, I'd rather not even schedule you, because we want to reserve these appointments for people that are going to come in. Or another way to phrase it would be, we only have a limited number of appointments. So if you're not really committed to coming in, I'd rather not have you take advantage of this offer. So do that to confirm that you're going to have everyone come in. So here's some additional tips down below. So and I'll just read this first sentence to you because it kind of sets the stage. So unless you're screening a future new payment, the screener's always outside the booth, inviting people to come in and get their spines checked, never sitting down. So make this a fun, wherever you're at, make it fun. Go out and meet people, talk to people. Hey, isn't this a great event? By the way, what do you do for a living? Those kinds of things. And then invite them to have their spine checked. Let's check your spine. If you're having health problems, let's find out what's causing those health problems. On the summary here, it kind of gives you a list of the excuses that people will have, because, right, procrastination is the thief of health. Or in other words, a lot of people will procrastinate when it comes to health problems. So let's help them not procrastinate by being proactive and going out and meeting people and letting them know there is a natural solution to solving health problems, especially common ones, and that's through chiropractic care. So if they say, well, I don't have time to come over and have my spine checked, well, that's okay. It only takes 3 minutes and it's free. Or when I walk up to someone and say, let's check your spine today, they say, oh, I know my back's bad. Well, who's taking care of that for you, right? That's not the same as saying, oh, okay, well, let me know if you ever need anything, right? We're being proactive about it. We're reaching out to help people. What if they're at the fair or the event and they have children with me? I've got my kids with me. Well, we have stickers for your children. Come on over here. Let's get stickers for your kids. So those are just ways to pull people into the booth. These are ways to help people to, or help yourself to initiate the spinal screening. And then there's more on there, but let's keep going down here. There's screening tips. So these are the feeder scripts, right? So it's so laid out on here. Really, it can be very organized and easy to follow. The feeder roams the event and passes out not raffle tickets. These are this is a typo. They're actually passing out postcards which invite the people to come to your booth or come find you or fill out a survey. By filling out the survey, that's what gets them the raffle ticket. So you could have an event that you're at where you don't have a table or a booth. In that case, you would just carry the raffle tickets with you and you would say, you know, we're doing a health screening today. We'd really appreciate it if you could fill out this health survey. In exchange for filling it out, you'll get a raffle ticket to win this prize that they're going to be raffling off later. Would you mind filling out this survey? It only takes 3 minutes and it's free. Oh, sure. Okay, great. And then they do it. So that's the script for that. The screener greets the public outside the booth and starts a conversation. So again, be proactive. Don't just sit behind the table and wait for people to walk up and start talking to you. You want to be proactive about it. And then it goes through exactly what to say when you're talking to somebody about a health problem. It starts out by saying, tell me about the problem. How long has it affected you? How does it affect you when it's at its worst? You can read it right off the website. But the point being, you're initiating a conversation, and then here's the cherry on top. You're going to initiate the conversation, and then you want to talk to people about how is this issue when it's at its worst? And I'll give you an example of that, because oftentimes if I was to talk to somebody and say, do you have health problems? And they say, yeah, I do, actually. I have headaches. Well, but a lot of times then they'll say, but they're not that bad. Well, for example, what if they're not that bad because the person's taking 3 Tylenol every morning when they get out of bed because the headaches are so bad? Or what if every time they go to do something, they have to take Tylenol or Advil or aspirin because they know ahead of time that it's going to hurt them so much and they don't want to be in pain while they're doing it. So preemptively, they just decide, yeah, I'm going to go take some Tylenol and that way I can do that thing that I want to do. Well, when you start talking to people about that and you say, well, how would it be if you wanted to do what you want to do, but then you couldn't take the Tylenol, like you ran out, there was none. How would that affect you? And that's a big part of spinal screening is talking to somebody about how it's affecting them. The key being, we want people to realize that even though it's affecting them in a lot of ways, and maybe they've kind of gotten used to modifying their activities because of the effects of this health condition, that's not normal. That doesn't make the health condition normal. Our conversations around getting help for these conditions, these chronic health problems, it needs to be centered in terms of how does this affect you when it's at its worst? And what can you not do because of this condition? That's number 2. And number 3, and this is for you doctors and CAs, how do you respond when somebody says it's affecting them? And the answer to that third part of the question is you want to respond with empathy. See, if somebody tells me, oh, my headache hurts right here, my natural inclination might be to say, oh, okay, well, here, let me feel it. But I don't want you to do that. I want you to train yourself to have a different level of empathy around that pain, because guess what? That pain is not okay. It's not okay. So why would I say, okay, let me check it? So what I want you to get in the habit of doing when somebody's sharing something with you about some heartfelt health problem, whether it's pain or discomfort or headaches or digestive problems or asthma or whatever it is, say, wow, that's not okay. Or, wow, that's not normal. Or, oh, I'm so sorry. Or, gosh, that's terrible. Or, wow, I feel bad for you. Right? These are the things that we can say with empathy, especially because as chiropractors and chiropractic assistants, most of us, if not almost all of us, are living a subluxation-free lifestyle where we don't deal with pain on a day-to-day basis. We don't deal with aches and pains and limitations that are placed because of health problems that are holding us back. We don't live in that. We live in more of an abundance lifestyle, a subluxation-free lifestyle. And we're used to be able to do the things that we want to do because we're under chiropractic care, and we prevent those problems from happening in the first place. When you take that position and you sort of exude that as part of your persona while you're doing a spinal screening, or you're having a conversation with someone who doesn't know or doesn't realize that the health problems that are holding them back don't really need to be there, that's going to create an interest that draws them in to want to share in what it is that you have to offer. They'll look at you as sort of a role model and say, wow, yeah, you're right. You don't have any health problems? Nope. You don't take any prescriptions? Nope. Haven't taken a single aspirin in over 32 years. Nothing? Nothing. Wow. And that's like, you're alive? Yes, I am. So having that position and sharing that through your interactions invites people to say, well, wait a minute, I want to have more of what you're having. There was actually a famous movie years and years ago. Some of you may have saw it. It was called When Harry Met Sally. And there was a classic scene in the movie where Sally is having dinner and she decides to put on a little show in a very emotional way, in a very ecstatic way and happy way. And she puts on this show, and then that ends, and everybody's sort of looking at her going, wow, that was amazing. And the table next to her, the woman says, because the waiter had walked up right then, the waiter or the woman at the table looks at the waiter and he says, or she says, I want to have what she's having. And if you've ever seen the movie, it's a great, great scene. But that goes to my point. My point is that when you're exuding health from a standpoint of we're under chiropractic care and we're living a life of optimum health, and then you come to a person who's having a health challenge and you offer a solution that based on your presence and your appearance, obviously you're enjoying living that solution, they're going to want that. And they'll be much more motivated to schedule an appointment to come in for a spinal exam, or they'll be more motivated to pay for that raffle ticket because it's going to give them a chance to win a prize and come in for a spinal exam. So that's the basis of spinal screenings, is anywhere we go, whatever we're doing, we want to make sure that we're sharing that message. The scripts that I just went through are on the website for you. If you want to get more specific about doing a certain type of spinal screening, we have the spinal screening, the Chamber of Commerce marketing, which is another form of spinal screening. These types of spinal screenings are going to get much, much bigger. It's a bigger type of event that that you can put on, and you can have the mayor of your town coming, you can have live music, you can have wine tasting, you can really get into big, big stuff. And we outline how to do that on the Chamber of Commerce marketing outline. So you can use that if you want to go really big. There's an example of our stress survey on here. So when you're going out and talking to people in public and you want to go to an event where you need some initiative to start a conversation and have them interested in participating in, say, a raffle or an appointment to come into the office, this is a really simple stress survey that is simple to fill out, but it gets right to the crux of the health issues, and it allows you to talk to them about doing a spinal screening. Then I promised we would do the spinal screening certificate. So the way that this works for the spinal screening certificate is they're buying a certificate or a coupon ahead of time. They're putting money down for the appointment, which, like I said before, if they put money down to come to the appointment, they're much more likely to show up for the appointment. So there needs to be some incentive, even if, and I'll add this, even if you went so far as to say it's $20 for the raffle ticket, that holds your spot for the appointment in the office. When you come to the office, we'll refund the $20, right? I mean, if you're really in some kind of an event, and I've done these before where it was an art and wine festival, And it was actually catered. It was a really upscale art and wine festival for sort of high-end wineries. And we were not allowed to charge for the certificate that I just showed you on the screen. We couldn't charge for it. But what the event director said is, if you want to take a deposit, you can. So we did that. We said, okay, here we're going to have these coupons and we're going to sell these coupons. But when the person comes in to redeem the coupon at the appointment, we'll just give them their money back. So it was just simply a placeholder for the appointment. And what was great about that was that the people actually showed up for the appointment because they had put some money down to hold the spot. And when they got to the office, we did the whole evaluation, new patient appointment, but we gave the money right back to them. So it was really a nice way to sort of get past that that initial roadblock. So anyway, so that's the coupon that's on there for you. You can take a look at that. And then last but not least, we have the raffle postcard sample. Actually, not last but not least. Next up is the postcard raffle. So this is the raffle ticket. So if you're going to go out and do a big event and you want to do a spinal screening there, this is what your feeder walks around with. They walk around with these postcards, and the postcard on the right side has a perforated section that can be torn off. So what the feeder does is they walk around at the event and they pass out this postcard and say, take this to that booth over there. In 2 hours, they're going to be raffling off a 50-inch flat screen TV. This is your ticket to win. And the feeder just passes those little postcards out all over the event. You could pass out 1,000 of them. And as you're passing those out, people take it and they go, really, I want to win a 50-inch flat screen TV. That's fantastic. Or a 70-inch or whatever. They're huge these days. But then they come walking up to your booth with holding this postcard and say, where do I go to win the TV? And you take the postcard and you do your health survey. They fill out their little health survey. Then you do your spinal screening. And then you fill out their name on this postcard, which it just tears right off. And you drop that into the drawing to win this grand prize, whatever you choose that to be. So if you want to see an example of how that flow works, because I've kind of talked through it, but if you want to see a real concrete video of how that works, just go onto the website here and look at Spinal Screening Marketing Demo. And you'll see everything from the feeder to the screener to the scheduler, the whole process. It's a 7-minute video. You'll get everything you need out of that. And then, of course, the supplies that you need are given on the website. Okay. So with that, I think that wraps up our topic. It's great to be with you as always. Thank you so much for being a part of DC Trainings. If you need more information, just reach out to us at any time. You can email us at dctrainings@gmail.com, or you can message us through the website. We'll be happy to respond to that. I will look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.
If you would like to become a member of DC Trainings, be sure to head on over to dctrainings.com to get started today.